Hey guys, and welcome to today's podcast. I'm your host, Jen Bjornson. It is no surprise that as moms, we are the thermostat of the entire household. Like if our energy goes down, if our focus goes down, if we become overstimulated, like life just kind of crashes down around us. And I wish that wasn't the case, but the reality is when you have babies and toddlers, they kind of run off your energy. So a while ago, there really wasn't anything wrong in my life. At the same time, I was feeling very overwhelmed. I didn't really know what was wrong other than the fact that I kind of hated life and I didn't know what to do to fix it. I didn't know how to change it because it really wasn't a diet problem. It wasn't an exercise problem. And I had people to talk to. I had a community. And anytime I would try and talk to them, I'd just be like, I don't know what's wrong, but I genuinely feel like I am trying to run through quicksand. And I feel like I'm fighting my head. I feel like I'm fighting everything around me. I'm just not enjoying life. And I feel overstimulated and chaotic all the time. Nothing really brings me joy. And it just felt like this huge weight on my shoulder because I didn't even know how to fix it. And what I found to really help me and help really change everything about my life was learning about energy management. Now, some people call this energy healing, some people call it Reiki, and at somewhere along the way, it became this mystical, magical practice that we now have to have this guru bestow upon us this magical power. And if you don't have this certification and you don't have this mystical power that you have now had a ceremonial performance bestowed upon you, you can't do it, or you got to go find someone and you got to pay crazy amounts of money or go to a retreat to go find yourself and have this amazing healing event. And I want to just say that is so far from what it can be, and I believe what it should be. The reality is it is just a skill. And I know that we get put a lot of names on it, whether it's energy healing or however you want to call it. But what I really truly believe is just like taking an herbal supplement every day, taking vitamins every day, doing some physical labor and making sure your health is well managed. That's what managing your energy is. If we do a little bit every day, it's really not that big of a deal. And yeah, maybe the first time we try to work out, we're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know, am I doing it right? And you're kind of muddling your way through it. That's exactly what this is. So just like taking supplements and making sure we're eating right, just like moving our bodies and making sure we're doing enough exercise, energy management is what I like to call it because I don't think it has to have this special name. I think you can do it in many different ways. And it doesn't have to be this mystical, magical thing that just seems so weird and woo-woo. Now, a lot of times they put like smoke and we've got this crystals around us and it's a ceremonial thing. But the reality is the magic is just consistency. The magic to it is just making sure we do a little bit every day, just as if we were to exercise or take our supplements. And the great thing is it really is empowering. Once you have a framework and you kind of get used to doing this, now you can not only find peace in yourself, but now you can start teaching this to your kids and teach them how to regulate their emotions and how to manage it within themselves. And so it really is this rippling effect. Just as if when you have a bad day and you feel overly stimulated, it really ripples into your entire life. Well, so does the positive of this. When you start to manage it and you start to have more peace in your life, it really starts to have a ripple effect with your whole family and even making friends and starting to do more interesting things and being able to handle a lot more. The power isn't who does it. The power is just doing it. Now, a lot of times I think we feel like because we don't know how to do it, we don't want to do it wrong or we don't want to spend the time, but we don't have to outsource this. This is one of those things that's so easy once you understand it. We don't need to outsource it and we don't have to have a specialist or a certified person to do it because it's really just figuring out your own way. Just like supplements, there's so many different brands. It doesn't matter if you go into Whole Foods or Natural Grocers or any health food store. There's so many brands, and we find the ones that we like. There's so many herbs and there's so many minerals. And really, some people find a huge effect with one mineral, and they're like, oh my gosh, you have to try this. And then you go try it, and you're like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's good for me, but I'm not feeling as much as you're feeling. And that's all that this is you got to find different techniques. You got to find the thing that works for you. You got to find the way that you like it and what time of day works best for you. Now, as I've said, healing is like a skill. It's like gardening. It's like learning how to play the piano. You practice, you experiment a little bit more, and the more often you do this and the more you do it, the more confident that you're going to become. So there's all different kinds. There's people call it energy healing. There's shadow work. There's tapping. There's hypnotherapy. I have a 5-step process that I'm going to show you. I'm going to talk about today. And there's EFT. There's all different types of techniques that you can use, and they all get the same effect. It's just finding out what works best for you. The thing that I really like about energy management is the fact that you become empowered, because now you know how to handle things. You know how to handle if things make you really upset. Most of the time, we get scared with stuff because we don't know how to fix it. We don't know how to make it better. The reason a headache is not so scary is because we have Tylenol that we can just take and we know it's going to fix the problem. Headaches become really irritating if they get worse and become a migraine, and we have no idea how to make it better. That's when they become really annoying, or if they're very persistent. But if it's just a one-time headache, we know it's usually stress, or maybe we're getting sick. And so it's really not that big of a deal. Yeah, it's kind of an irritation, but it's really not life-changing, because we're like, oh, we've got a pill we can take, or, I could really reduce my stress. I could take a hot bath. So having a lot of different options, it takes away the fear and it takes away the anxiety of dealing with it when you actually have tools and resources to deal with it. This is very similar to that, where if you learn tools and resources, now when you have a child who has this sudden outburst of a lot of emotion, and if it continues to happen, that's when it gets frustrating. We're like, what's wrong? What do we do? And you don't know how to fix it. Yeah, kids throw temper tantrums, or yeah, they have emotional outbursts, but it becomes a real problem when us as parents, there's a persistent emotional change and we don't know what to do to fix it. It's no surprise that we have a lot of anxiety now, or a lot of depression within our teenagers. And it can become really scary as a parent if you don't know how to fix that. And we're just like guessing at it. But with these tools, it's helped so many people with anxiety, depression, stress, just the changes of life. The world is really chaotic right now. And if you can have a tool to manage that and to offset the craziness, that we can teach our own kids and we can teach our friends and our family, and not make it this woo-woo thing where it has to be this big ceremonial thing. It's like taking a vitamin. Now it's not this weird thing. It's just a resource, and it's just a tool that we get to use as moms to empower us and to help our kids and to make our lives and our home lives so much better. So it doesn't just have to be this. You can add journaling with it. You can, like I've said, meditation. You can use herbs with this. I do it all because all of the resources are helpful. I look at it in a way as kind of like, have you ever gotten sick and used a holistic, like maybe oregano, or, you've done oils or something, and then you get sick with something else and you're like, oh, well, I'll just use oregano or the same oils that I've been using. And it doesn't really touch it. And you're like, oh my word, now we gotta try different things. That's what's great about this, is if you start building a toolbox of a bunch of different emotional managing or energy managing tools, now when you have one thing that may work for you, but it's not, your one kid's not really catching on, or now you can bring from a lot of different resources, and it doesn't just have to be this one thing. Another thing that's been really kind of interesting to me as I've gone down this hole of learning energy management, energy healing, and all this stuff, is not only has it kind of been this woo-woo of like, oh, this is weird, I don't know what we're talking about, or and a lot of times it got put in kind of a spiritual realm or a religious realm of like, oh, we're going to call on this deity. And so in some cases it turned like very religious and like spiritual, and other people were like, well, no, that's bad. And the thing that I have noticed is I don't look at it as good or bad. I don't look at it as a spiritual practice. I look at it as a very normal thing. We all have emotions. We all have to manage our emotions. And if you look in the mindset self-development world, everybody's talking about it, how we need to manage our emotions and we need to get control of our mindset. But it's not really described how. A lot of times they'll just talk about gratitude. And from my own personal experience, when I would go into gratitude, I had so much fear and so much anger and so much of these other emotions that trying to feel gratitude, it was really hard. It was just not something that was normal and natural. And I was praying, I was doing all the things that that my religion talked about, and it was helpful. But when I separated the two and I said, okay, there's definitely a place for religion, and I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for prayer and for all of these good things and feeling gratitude. But this does not have to be spiritual. It does not have to be tied to a religion, because all you're doing is you're having a habit or an experience. You're changing your view on that habit or that experience, and now you get to create what it is that you're looking at. Let me just give you kind of an example. So imagine that we have this belief of driving in a car is typically safe, right? You've driven however long you've driven a car, and if you've never experienced an accident, we know as a fact there's a lot of people that, even though we know very, very well that accidents happen, that people get in car wrecks all the time, there's still people who are driving over the speed limit and who are driving very crazy, right? So even though they know that's a possibility, they're still driving in a way as if it's not a possibility. So they don't have this fear that that's going to happen to them. Now just imagine that same person, they now get in an accident, okay? And they now have this very real experience showing them, okay, I knew before it was a possibility. I knew before I could get in an accident, but now they actually did. And so from that point on, getting in a car, it's a very logical understanding that they could be hesitant, that there could now be a fear, because they have this new understanding that they not only could get in an accident, but they actually did. Now that's kind of a negative way to look at it, but let me put a positive spin on this. Okay, so now imagine that you have a friend come in and you're good friends with this person, and so you've always had a good relationship with them. Well, they come in a little snarky and a little ornery, and there's kind of this, oh my, like, what is your problem? Kind of look towards them, right? Like you're just like, God, like, what's your problem? Now, let's say that person says, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. My pet just died this morning and I'm just in a really bad mood. I'm so sad. And I'm sorry I snapped at you. Well, now you have a level of understanding to, oh my gosh, like, I'm so sorry, and compassion and love towards this person because they're going through a hard time. Well, what was the difference? The difference was, at first you were like, how dare you treat me like that, right? Like, well, I'm going to match your energy. And then we had this immediate understanding of they're going through a really hard time. So our body and our energy switched immediately as soon as we found out that they were going through a hard time and that they were sad. And that's exactly what happens. All we do is we have these patterns and we have these habits, and we genuinely believe them to be true. We have these habits, these patterns that some people have called them social contracts, like a social contract in America. We have this saying where we just like, hey, how are you doing? And our automatic response is, oh, I'm fine. How are you? Like, nobody means it. Nobody wants to know how you're doing, but that's just a social contract that we typically all have. And the automatic response is, I'm fine. How are you? Now, if you go to other countries or other cultures, that's not really a thing for them. If you ask, how are you? They're going to tell you, oh, I had an awful day and here's what I'm going through. And as an American, if this social contract is, hi, how are you? And I'm good. How are you? If that's your social contract, and then you have somebody else who that's not their social contract, and they respond in a very, very unusual way that you're not used to, that's jarring to us. So we have these belief systems. We have these things that we know to be true, even though they're not true, even though they're like, we kind of made them up, but we've been so used to them. We've been so conditioned that that's just how it is. And so we have a very core belief system that this is how it has to be. And then all we're doing when we manage our energy is we're disrupting that. We're saying that doesn't have to be true. I know it was true, but it doesn't have to be true. And when we recognize it doesn't have to be true, now we can recreate exactly what we want. So maybe you have a contract in your head with you and your family that you always have to show up. You're the backbone. You're the person that everybody relies on. Your needs don't matter. Well, that's a core belief. And in your whole life, maybe that's the way it's shown up and everybody's shown you that that's exactly what has to happen. But once you can kind of understand, it's like, oh, wait, I don't have to be that way. I truly could be, I could put myself first. That's a reality. I could put myself first. And I'm sure just saying that, some people are like, no, I couldn't. Oh my word. That would create so much trauma, so much chaos and so much turmoil in our family. That's true as well. But the reality is you could put yourself first. Nobody's stopping you other than you. If you're a grown adult, other than you, you have this contract. And once you have this understanding that now you can see how your needs can get met and how you can put yourself first, now we can start creating an actual change in your life. And you might be thinking, that's great and all, but how do we actually do that? Because that sounds like easier said than done. It's actually not. It's actually pretty simple. So here are the 5 steps that I use in changing any state that I am feeling. So you can use this for anger. You can use this if you are feeling numb. You can use this if you're feeling a lot of guilt or shame or anxiety. I have used it for literally everything. All right. Step 1 is just awareness. That just understanding what it is that you're feeling is the first step. Now, this may kind of like be okay, that sounds stupid. But the reality is the majority of us have been pushing down a good portion of our emotions, if not all of our emotions. We just kind of have this, oh, don't let that come out. Oh, don't. Okay, I'm feeling angry, but we can't let anybody know. And we just kind of shove it down, shove it down, shove it down. Now, here's what happens when you keep shoving down emotions. You either become emotionally constipated or you have emotional diarrhea. Now, here's the difference between the two. If you have emotional constipation, you're probably walking around with a lot of health problems, is the reality, because you just keep shoving those down and you're not going to ever tell anybody about it. You're fine. You're always fine. And the crazy thing is that at some point it is going to come out in emotional diarrhea. And that looks like anger or rage, or now you're mad and you're crying and you don't know why. And so emotions are kind of like a toddler, okay? They will not be ignored. Think of like a little baby or like a toddler. Any attention is great attention. They don't care if it's negative attention. They will be heard. And if they want something, they will be heard. Well, that's kind of like your emotions. Your emotions are going to come out at the most inappropriate time. It's not when you're like alone and sitting in your room by yourself and you have time to process things. Most of the time it's going to come out when you're very overwhelmed or you're stressed, and now somebody does something and you're really overwhelmed. And the reality is that now you're crying in front of like 20 people and it's embarrassing, or you lose your temper and you didn't mean to lose your temper. Those are ways that emotions come out when we keep shoving them down. If we'll let them out more often and we'll process them in the way that I'm going to show you, then that kind of stuff is not going to happen because you've processed it. You've gotten it out. But if we keep just shoving it down like anger, oh, I'm so mad, and I'm just going to go silent for a week, and they're going to know that I'm mad, and hopefully they'll read my mind. That is not a healthy way to handle it. I get it that that's kind of how we've all been trained, and that's how a lot of us handle our emotions. But this is why we're doing it, because that is going to cause so many more problems down the road. So the way that you become aware of your emotions is notice your triggers. Notice when you get upset. Notice what is your favorite flavor of emotion. Do you tend to get angry a lot? Do you tend to cry a lot? Do you tend to, oh, this is helpless, hopeless, and it's never going to change? What is kind of the thing that shows up the most for you? The great thing about being aware of your emotions is it takes you out of survival mode and it puts you into a more empowering role and into clarity. So that brings us to step 2. Step 2 is where I want you to notice where it is in your body. Okay. I want you to kind of notice, is it in your stomach? Do you kind of feel like your gut's in knots? Do you kind of feel like your throat is tightening up and your cheeks get all red? Do you feel like, my back kind of tends to tense up, or it like gets in my shoulders and that gets all tense and I start getting a headache? So start noticing the moment that you downward spiral, and what does that feel like? Where is that in your body? What this also does is I want you to be aware of what is a inanimate or a tangible object that you could apply to that feeling. As an example, if you feel a lot of fear, maybe your gut feels like there's a lot of knots in it and it gets really tense and it gets really tight. So it'd be easy to think of like a lot of knots, like a rope being really tied up and really, really cinched down. Now, this is important because this is the first step to actually starting to release it. So I want you to think of an inanimate object or something that makes it seem like you can hold on to it and grab it. Because what we're going to do is we're going to mentally kind of think of starting to unravel that. So if you go with the knot idea, I want you to think of it starting to loosen up and starting to release and starting to untie that. If you have a lot of brain fog, you can think of literal fog and it's like covering your eyes. And then you can think of a wind starting to wash that away. I have honestly taught my little kids to do this. I think they were like 6. And it was so cute because they would put it in like a little rocket. They'd have like little rocks and they're like, oh, I'm going to fill up this rocket. And then they shoot it into the sun and it burn up. Or they put it on like a little train and watch it go away. And that's kind of what you're looking towards. You're trying to come up with a tangible way to watch it let go, to watch it be released, because you're the only one holding on to it. It's not like there's some magical power holding on to it. You're the only one holding on to it. So this is just giving you a little trick in order to watch it go away. Now, as we start to watch it go away, one of the things that we want to start doing to make it even go faster is we want to thank it and we want to forgive it. So bear with me here, because one of the reasons you've been holding on to it is because honestly, you thought this was going to protect you, or you thought you needed to punish yourself in some way. Now, I don't want to get into that too much because that's down a rabbit hole. And I'll do a podcast later on about it. But here's why we hold on to stuff, because we genuinely think it's going to either protect us, or we think we've kind of been the villain of our story and we deserve this type of punishment. None of those are true. But to just kind of fast forward this process, what we're going to do is we're going to thank it. We're going to be like, okay, I know that I get that you think this has been helping me, right? That's kind of the idea. You think this has been helping me. You think this has been getting me something that I needed, whether it's love and connection or significance or some kind of, we're trying to figure out the chaos and trying to bring in a little bit of consistency in our lives. Maybe that's the reason it's been holding on to it. If it helps, you can kind of deep dive into that and try to figure out, okay, what has this been trying to give me? One thing is what you're going to do is you're going to recognize you don't need this anymore. You don't need this to give you what you've been needing or what you've been trying to get. You don't need to punish yourself. So we're going to thank it. We appreciate it. It's been helping us, or we think it's been helping us, but it's no longer needed. And I want you to say those words. I appreciate this, that it's been helping me, or things that's been helping me, but I don't need this. I don't want this anymore. You're allowed to go. Now, as far as the forgiveness part of it, forgiving yourself is not necessarily saying that what happened to you is okay. If you are the one who did it, or if somebody else did it to you, it's not necessarily saying that that's okay. And, oh my gosh, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. No, is what it's saying is, you know what happened was not okay. So I am forgiving myself of holding on to this. I am letting it go. The great thing with this is you're literally uploading a new subconscious coding. Now, this is where I like to use affirmations. You can use visualization. But the great thing about this is now that we have a completely new understanding, it's just like in the other stories I was talking about, we're going to rewrite what it is that you want it to look like. So that brings us to the final step, that as you remove it, as you're letting it go, as you're washing it away, as you're letting the smoke, however it is that you work on it, step 5 is to repeat with compassion. Most of us are going through life with a lot of something, a lot of fear, a lot of anger, a lot of guilt, a lot of shame. And so the idea that you're going to just do this once and be completely healed of everything that has happened to you is kind of unrealistic. We're going to do this every day, just like we take vitamins, just like we work out and move our bodies. This is something that we do every day. The more you will see a massive change. You may not see a big change the first week or even the first month, depending on how much you have to release and let go. But the more that you do this, the more you're going to find how much better you feel. One thing used to set you off and sent you into just a panic attack. And now you notice, wow, oh, that's interesting. I don't think I've been anxious about that in a really long time. And that's just kind of how it turns out. You just kind of now not notice things. So with this, you're going to start small. Don't start with anything big. Just start to get to build that muscle of learning how to manage your energy and work on your energy and start releasing all of those really intense emotions. And just remember, this is not anything mythical. It's not magical. The magic is the fact that you're just show up and you're consistent. That's the magic. Just like if you're losing weight, people will be like, oh, you're so lucky. No, you're not lucky. You did the work. You were consistent. Now, once you start to learn this for yourself, this is where you can start teaching your kids. If they have a meltdown, you can teach them little parts of this, and it's really helpful. And they'll start in a younger age how to manage their energy and how to manage their emotions. You don't need a guru. You don't need a spiritual advisor. All you need to do is learn the little steps that I taught you, and also practice different things. Breath work. If this isn't your thing, try shadow work, try meditation, try journaling, try painting as therapy. Start noticing your emotions and what's going to help bring those out instead of just shoving them all down. So thank you for hanging out with me. If you found this helpful, go ahead and subscribe. Or if you know of a person who could really use this information, go ahead and send it to them. And until next time, bye.